A dinner speaker was in a hurry to get to his engagement. When he arrived and sat down at the head table, he suddenly realized that he had forgotten his false teeth. Turning to the man next to him, he whispered, "I forgot my teeth." The man said,
"No problem."
With that, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a pair of false teeth.
"Try these,"
he said. The speaker tried them. "Thanks, but they're too loose," he said. The man said,
"I have another pair. Try these."
The speaker tried them and responded, "Too tight." The man was not taken back at all. He then said,
"I have one more pair of false teeth. Try these."
This time, the speaker said, "They fit perfectly." With that, he ate his meal, then delivered his address to the crowd. After the dinner meeting was over, the speaker went over to thank the man who had helped him. "I want to thank you for coming to my aid. Where is your office? I've been looking for a good dentist." The man replied,
"I'm not a dentist. I'm a mortician."
A blonde wanted a pair of real alligator shoes in the worst way. But she didn't want to pay the high prices the local vendors were asking. After becoming very frustrated with the no-haggle attitude of one of the shopkeepers, the blonde shouted,
"Maybe I'll just go out and catch my own alligator so I can get a pair of shoes at a reasonable price."
The shopkeeper said,
"By all means, be my guest. Maybe you'll luck out and catch yourself a big one."
Determined, the blonde turned and headed for the swamps, set on catching herself an alligator. Later in the day, the shopkeeper is driving home when he spots the young woman standing waist-deep in the water, shotgun in hand. Just then, he sees a huge 9-foot alligator swimming quickly towards her. She takes aim, kills the creature, and with a great deal of effort, hauls it onto the swamp bank. Lying nearby were several more dead alligators. The shopkeeper watched in amazement. Just then, the blonde flipped the alligator on its back and, frustrated, shouts,
"Darn! This one isn't wearing any shoes either."
3 men died on Christmas Eve and were met by St. Peter at the pearly gates.
"In honor of this holy season,"
St. Peter said,
"you must each possess something that symbolizes Christmas to get into heaven."
The first man fumbled through his pockets and pulled out a lighter. He flicked it on and said, "It represents a candle."
"You may pass through the pearly gates,"
St. Peter said. The second man reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. He jingled them and said, "They're bells." St. Peter nodded.
"You may pass through the pearly gates."
The third man started searching desperately through his pockets and finally pulled out a pair of skimpy panties. St. Peter looked at the man with a raised eyebrow and asked,
"And just what exactly do those symbolize?"
The man grinned and said, These are carols." A mall manager has 3 spaces to rent, all in a row. A prospective lessee by the name of John shows up and says he wants to rent the space on the left for a menswear shop. "That's fine," the mall manager says. "You also get free signage." "What do you want on the sign?" "Menswear," says John. A second guy named Richard comes along and asks to rent the right-hand space for his gentleman's formal wear business. When asked, he wants menswear on his sign. The mall manager tells him that the left-hand shop will also have the same sign. "No problem," says Richard. Finally, a third man, Gary, comes along to rent the middle space. The manager is somewhat concerned because this guy also has a menswear shop. The manager explains that the shops on either side of his are both menswear, and that's what their signs say. He then asks Gary what he wants on his sign. Gary chuckles and replies, "Main entrance." For decades, 2 heroic statues, one male and one female, faced each other in a city park. Until one day, an angel came down from heaven.
"You've been such exemplary statues,"
he announced to them,
"that I'm going to give you a special gift. I'm going to bring you both to life for 30 minutes, in which you can do anything you want."
And with the clap of his hands, the angel brought the statues to life. The two handsome figures approached each other, a bit shyly, but soon dashed for the bushes, from where shortly there could be heard a good deal of giggling, laughter, and shaking of branches. 15 minutes later, the two statues emerged from the bushes with wide grins on their faces.
You still have 15 more minutes,
said the angel, winking at them. Grinning even more widely, the female statue turned to the male statue and said,
Great! Only this time, you hold the pigeon down and I'll do my business on its head.
A man walks out to the street and catches a taxi just going by. He gets into the taxi and the cabbie says,
Wow, perfect timing. You're just like Dave.
The passenger asks, Who? The cabbie explains,
Dave Smith. He's a guy who did everything right all the time. Like when I came along, just when you needed a cab. Things like that happen to Dave Smith every single time.
The passenger remarked, There are always a few dark clouds over everybody.
Not Dave Smith,
the cabbie replied.
He was a terrific athlete. He could have won the Grand Slam at tennis. He could golf with the pros. He sang like an opera baritone and danced like a Broadway star. And you should have heard him play the piano. He was an amazing guy.
The passenger said, Sounds like he was really something special. The cabbie replied,
There's more. He had a memory like a computer. He remembered everybody's birthday. He knew all about wine, which foods to order, which fork to eat them with. Dave Smith could do everything right.
The passenger was amazed. Wow, what a guy! The cabbie continued,
He always knew the quickest way to go to avoid traffic jams. Not like me, I always seem to get stuck in them. But Dave, he never made a mistake. And he really knew how to treat a woman and make her feel good. He would never answer her back, even if she was in the wrong. And his clothing was always immaculate, shoes highly polished too. He was the perfect man, never made a mistake. No one could ever measure up to Dave Smith.
The passenger asked, So, how did you meet him? To which the cabbie answered,
Oh, I never actually met Dave. He died and I married his wife.
A little old lady gets pulled over for speeding. The officer walks up to the car and after a quick greeting, takes the documentation she has ready for him. He notices she has a concealed carry license, so he asks,
Ma'am, do you have a firearm in the vehicle?
She replies,
Well, yes, sir, I do.
The officer smiles a little, as this lady was no more than 5 feet tall, 90 pounds, and had to be 90 years old.
Ma'am, may I ask what type of firearm you have?
Well, yes, sir.
She replies,
I've got a 9mm in my purse, a 45 in the center console, and a Magnum in the glove compartment.
The officer is taken back a little.
Is that it?
He asks, half kidding.
Well, no. I do have a pistol grip shotgun in the trunk as well,
she says. The officer is really raising his eyebrows at this point and asks,
Ma'am, what are you afraid of?
The little old lady smiles sweetly and replies,
Not a damned thing.
A big city lawyer went duck hunting in rural North Alberta. He shot and dropped a bird, but it fell into a farmer's field on the other side of a fence. As the lawyer climbed over the fence, an elderly farmer drove up on his tractor and asked him what he was doing. The lawyer responded, I shot a duck and it fell in this field, and now I'm going to retrieve it. The old farmer Peter replied, This is my property and you're not coming over here. The indignant lawyer said, I am one of the best trial lawyers in Canada, and if you don't let me get that duck, I'll sue you and take everything you own. The old farmer smiled and said, Apparently, you don't know how we settle disputes in Alberta. We settle small disagreements like this with the 3-kick rule. The lawyer asked, What is the 3-kick rule? The farmer replied, Well, because the dispute occurs on my land, I get to go first. I kick you 3 times, and then you kick me 3 times, and so on, until someone gives up. The lawyer thought about the proposed contest and decided that he could easily take the old codger. So he agreed to abide by the local custom. The old farmer slowly climbed down from the tractor and walked up to the attorney. His first kick planted the toe of his heavy steel-toed work boot right into the lawyer's groin and dropped him to his knees. His second kick to the midriff sent the lawyer's last meal gushing from his mouth. The lawyer was on all fours when the farmer's third kick to his rear end sent him face first into a fresh cow pie. Summoning every bit of his will and remaining strength, the lawyer very slowly managed to get to his feet. Wiping his face with the arm of his jacket, he said, "Okay, you old fart, now it's my turn." The old farmer smiled and said, "You can have the duck." A first-grade teacher was having trouble with one of her students who was being extremely rude in class. So one day, she asked little Johnny what his problem was. He replied,
I'm too smart for the first grade. My sister's in the third grade, and I'm smarter than her, too.
The teacher took him to the principal's office and explained the situation to the principal. The principal told her that he would give Johnny a test, and if he failed to answer one question correctly, he would have to go back to the first grade and be quiet. The teacher and Johnny both agreed. The principal asked, "What's 3 times 3? Johnny replied,
9.
6 times 6? Asked the principal.
36.
Johnny quickly replied. It continued on like this for almost an hour. The principal asked Johnny every question a third grader should know, and he answered them all correctly. Finally, the principal told the teacher, "I see no reason Johnny can't go to the third grade. He answered all of my questions right." The teacher asked if she could ask him some questions. The principal and Johnny agree. So the teacher asks Johnny,
What does a cow have 4 of that I only have 2 of? Legs.
Johnny replies. The teacher then asks,
What do you have in your pants that I don't have?
The principal gasps, but before he can stop him from answering, Johnny says,
Pockets.
Then the teacher asks,
What does a dog do that a man steps into?
Johnny says,
Pants.
Finally, the teacher asks,
What starts with F, ends with K, and means a lot of excitement? Fire truck,
says Johnny. The principal breathes a big sigh of relief, then says, Put Johnny in the 5th grade. I got the last 4 questions wrong myself!